4 is an ordinance.
Second.
Second, please. Councilmember Davis? Second by Councilmember Davis.
Item 40 is an ordinance.
Discussion. Favoring, discussion, Councilmember Robinson.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I understand that this is going out. We've had a moment to inquire with Public Works about the program as it does affect streets and drainage. We were pleased to hear that it did include components of your Complete Streets executive order, so we're grateful for that. I think going further, I think in terms of the process, I'm curious to know how in a project like this, very specific elements of the Complete Streets program, as I understand it, say in terms of the A, B, and C, one might include bulb outs for parking or street crossing, bike lanes that might be advantageous to pedestrians and cyclists, as well as drainage swales. Some of those elements that we've seen, the components along Bagby, that was that beta first program that we've seen in the city. I'm trying to understand the process and fundamentally if this would be legible in the RFP that would go out to solicit bids, and if specific elements of a Complete Street program would be confidential to what we receive as bids in the response for the RFP. I'm not quite understanding, and perhaps it's the subject of a future TTI meeting, if that's appropriate, but perhaps my lack of understanding reflects a comparable point in this process of my colleagues on council. For me, at least, I'm curious to know how council members like my esteemed colleague, Ellen Cohen, would feel about this going into her district, and what we might learn from Public Works about what they're doing to provide for certain elements that could be advantageous to our citizens.
Councilmember, I will ask that, make sure that the Public Works Department specifically answers your question as to how this is reflected in the request for proposals or the RFP process, but it might be worthy of a more complete discussion at the committee as well. Let me run the traps on that.
I think the IDM as the sort of the manual from which the elements are pulled, I don't think that's really transparent yet as to how the elements would be introduced. And I have sat with Director Kruger, so I know that there's been some discussion about how these things might come to bear. And if there's a specific cost associated with it that would raise the price, might be wise to understand that in terms of budget allocated for such a program. And, or, you know, there could be potential savings with other pros and cons. Drainage swales have inherent value and other components of the Complete Streets initiative.
Now,